Hello folks, welcome back. I haven't had a video in a while, but today I am going to be taking a look at the ModRetro Chromatic. It is a device that is meant to be the ultimate in Game Boy technology and give people a reason to break out their cartridges again and play their old Game Boy games in newer technology and with technology that won't be broken down and will hopefully last a little longer. So I was kind of on the fence with this device. I wasn't sure if I really needed it or wanted it. And honestly, I still am not sure if I absolutely need this thing. But I've been wanting to do a video, and I figured this will be a great reason to do a video. As you know, I've got multiple modded Game Boys, Game Boy Colors. I like to tinker with these devices. So to me, this is old hat. I mean, I've experienced a modded Game Boy and what a Game Boy with some extra features can do. I've already taken the plastic off. I've already kind of looked it over a little bit. And I don't want to waste everybody's time with yet another unboxing. This is just basically my thoughts and my review, kind of sort of on this device and what I like and what I don't like. And we're just going to run through a few things. My key thing is I wanted to show some people things that I haven't really seen in other videos that have taken place. So let's get started. As I said, took the plastic off, and I have to say the box is really nicely done. The presentation is fantastic on this thing. So we're going to open this up. I think my big thing about it right off the bat was the amount of money that it costs. I need something like this, like a hole in the head, especially for the amount of money. It's $199.99. They're currently all sold out on ModRetro's official site, all the various colors. The only way you can get it now is this GameStop edition. It's got this different color scheme going on. It almost has like an NES kind of vibe to it in a way. If only these buttons were a little like maroonish, I guess. That's something I'm looking into. I want to see if I could swap these buttons out with an old Game Boy. Some old Game Boy buttons I have laying around. So when you open it up, you get this nice presentation. I guess it's supposed to represent, a grade school notebook, blah, blah, blah. I was very well in high school at this point by the time this thing, the original Game Boy came out, so I wasn't doodling and stuff really necessarily. But it's pretty cool. It almost has like a more late 90s, early 2000s aesthetic to it, which makes sense because the Game Boy Color, which is what this is supposed to replace, is around that time frame. So one thing I really like about this device, just taking it out, is it's got this cool feeling. Now, it's a little chilly around these parts. It's anywhere between 30 to 50 degrees right now. So when you leave this in a cold room or just in an open space, it's got this. The shell is a very solid metal and painted over. Now, the only problem with being painted over is you're going to get chips. Okay, so it's kind of a bummer in a way. But overall, it's a very solid. It feels good. Buttons are nice and clicky. A little bit of that later. So out of the box, you got your power switch. You got an IR port. That is something you can use when you take another Game Boy device and you want to trade Pokemons. So you can put them together like that. They'll zap them back and forth. See, there's one on my modded Game Boy Color here, and then there's also this one here. So that's kind of cool. It's got a neat texture cart slot. It's got a menu button, volume wheel, volume rocker. Under here we have the USB-C port. You can actually run this thing off of a battery pack, which is pretty cool. You got a downward firing speaker, which is actually kind of cool too, because even though it's downward firing, it sounds fantastic. It's very loud. Headphone jack and a status light, I guess if it's like plugged in, charging and whatnot. Back here you got your battery hatch, and I did not. Well, here, let me show you this. So it comes with, every device comes with a set of three AA ModRetro labeled batteries. I didn't open these. I thought they were kind of cool, so I just kept them in there. I didn't want to use them up and everything. I thought it was a neat little thing. And of course, you get a free, not free, but a bundled copy of a new version of Tetris that ModRetro put together just for this device. That's saying you can use it and all other prior original Game Boy systems that I can tell so far. So it even works with the old black and white one, because this is a black cartridge, which means it'll work on both a Game Boy Color and an original Game Boy system. It's a hybrid cart, so to speak. So it's kind of cool that they kept with that color scheme. So we're going to put this all back, and we're going to take this stuff out here, and we're going to look at it up close a little bit here. So one thing out of the box that I discovered about this, even the device seems really solidly made and very well made, the quality control seems a little off. And I'm just going to get into it real quick, because I know a lot of people are sticklers about this, and I am one of them. You can see that the IR port has some scuff marks on it here. That seems to be a wide range problem that's been going on with this device. I don't know if it's from when it's shipped, in the shipping process. I know when I got this, I ordered it from GameStop. It was all bouncing around in a box, but still, as we saw inside, the thing is kind of closed in on this plastic, so it's not shifting around. So I don't know why it would have these scuff marks. I did contact ModRetro since then. I've only had this thing open today, and I gotta tell you, their support has been really cool so far, from what I could tell. Just speaking to a buddy of mine, Monroe World, Shane, he got one, and he already contacted them because his Tetris cartridge was having issues. You know, in and out, it was bombing out. I think he's going to be making a video at some point about that. But they're sending him a whole new cartridge, which is pretty cool. But in my case, they got back to me fairly quickly. I heard back within about an hour. And what they're going to do is send me a new IR shield here. I mean, it's a $200 device, and something like that, to have it out of the box scratched up like that, you know, okay, it can be hit or miss. Some people are like, oh, you care. You know, for that kind of money, and for somebody who likes to keep their devices in good condition and make them last a lifetime. I mean, I still have my original Game Boy, for crying out loud, from '89 launch day, and it runs like a champ. So, you know, just to see this now in this current year and like this, I mean, on one hand, it kind of sucks, but on the other hand, their support has been great, so I can't fault them for that. They gave me three options. They could send me a new one, of a new shield here. I could send the device back, and I guess they'll put it in for me, which, in other words, I think they'd probably just be sending me a whole new device. Or they give me $15 off in their store, which $15 off in the store doesn't really help me, because I want a nicer shield. In any case, I'm going to opt for the nicer shield, and it sounds like they're going to give you directions. It looks like everything's pretty modular in this thing. I'm not taking it apart. There's other videos for that if you really want to get inside and look inside it. Like I said, this isn't necessarily even a review. This is just my feelings about this device, and just how I overlook it and what I'm feeling about it right now. Given it is Game Boy related, and I love Game Boys, so that's pretty cool. Some other things I've heard is like the power switch being a little loose. Mine's fairly tight. I think it's fine. Some people have had their menu buttons falling out. Mine's been fine. The only other problem I have with mine is, and now this is really nitpicking, I might not even be able to get it up in this camera here, but right here there are three little ding ding ding, like it's weird, like it rubs something. You can't really see it unless you have it up to light, and you might not be able to pick it up in camera. Whatever, I'm not going to be too crazy about that. But like I said, this is paint, so this is going to chip if you're not careful. Don't nudge it against anything sharp. I don't know anything sharp next door to me, but if I was to ding this against something, count on that paint coming off. Especially depending on the color, it's going to be more apparent. The bright green and everything, you get all these different colors, so some of those scratches are going to probably be a little more apparent than the GameStop exclusive NES gray. So anyway, the battery hatch snaps off pretty nice. It's got these soft rubbery kind of inserts here, and these are my already preloaded IKEA Lada rechargeables. It's odd that it has 3 batteries. The original Color takes 2, and the original Game Boy takes 4, so it's kind of weird to see 3. That said, if I'm not mistaken, I think the Game Boy Light in Japan took 3 as well, so hey, whatever works, I guess. Just It's different. They are going to be putting out, ModRetro is going to be putting out a battery pack for this device that you're going to be able to charge through this USB port. That has not shown up yet, but very nice option to have. So I think the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to put in the original game that came with it, Tetris, and we're going to bundle this. It's been bundled in. Right now you can't buy it separately. Snaps right on, pops right on. And I have to say, this is a really well done version of Tetris. Game Boy Tetris, the original, is easily my favorite of all time. It could just be nostalgia speaking. As you can hear, it gets very loud. And even though it's downward firing, it sounds really good. And the knob, the volume knob, feels really good, nice and smooth. But they're going to be eventually selling this separately, from what I understand, in the next year or so, which is great because it's got the original Game Boy feel, Tetris feel, but they also updated the rule set. So you have your hold, and then you have your ghost piece options and all those little things. It's a really, really well done version of Tetris. And turn it down a little bit. I'm going to show you the menu system. So you put your finger in there and click that in, and right here you got a battery gauge. It's kind of funny. It takes a second for it to adapt, but as you can see, it fills up a little bit. It's glowing green right now. And you've got a brightness indicator. You got a silent mode, which looks like it just turns the volume all the way down. But if you push these along, you can lower and raise the brightness. I'm going to leave it right back there just so it's easier to see on the camera. It looks a little brighter on the camera. Push over here, you got some display options. So I believe, from what I understand, this thing can do video out, which is kind of cool. So I believe this is it one of the options there? No. I believe that helps with some of the games. And yeah, there it is, the color correction. That's what it is. That helps with games. If you're streaming this to your PC, some of the games, the colors might be off, and I guess I haven't tried it, so bear with me here, but I believe this will adjust some of the color features. I haven't really seen anybody talk about that offhand. I haven't plugged this into my PC yet. I haven't updated the firmware. From what I understand, speaking of firmware, there is a tool out there for Windows right now that does allow you to update the firmware. There is an update as of recording this now that I still need the flash to. So this is the one that came with the device right now. I have not updated to the recent firmware as of yet. And some other things are involved in that firmware update that I will get to in a little bit. But for the sake of this video, I have not updated just yet. But the frame blending, I believe, is through for some of the things that occur in the natural state of the Game Boy's dot matrix display. Some of the games, like Link's Awakening is a famous example, where you have the chomp with the chain. There's like these transparency effects for the chain. I believe that's what that's for, if I'm not mistaken, that this frame blending option will help with some of those graphical effects. This just shows you the controls of the device, which is interesting because pretty self-explanatory, really. And then this is where it tells you what firmware you're using, what FPGA core version you're running. And this just tells me on player 1 and 2. I don't quite understand that part yet. But yeah, that's pretty much all there is to say here. So the big thing I like that really has me excited about this device is the, and we're going to hit the menu button and go back, is the clarity of this screen. It is amazing. They manufactured their own, you can see the pixels there. I'm trying to get it the best I can without the camera going a little wonky. They were showing off how they had their own manufacturing. This screen is built from the ground up to faithfully replicate the original Game Boy Color screen. That pixely, the pixel grid, the grid lines, everything. None of this is a filter. This is baked into the display itself, which is really incredible, and it's easily the highlight of this device. It's also the sapphire technology glass, so it can take a lot hitting and things like that nature. It's scratch resistant, in other words. So it's a little better than Gorilla Glass, if you can believe that. So let me see if we can get a little better in there. There you go. It looks pretty good. As you go in, you can really make out the pixels of this display. They look amazing. Look in the Tetris logo especially, and you can really see it. So to me, that's the highlight of this device, this screen. And just having hardware that I don't have to rely on my old hardware, even though it's been working great. I want to keep it working great as long as I can. So that's another bonus to this device so far. So let's just play a quick round here. I'm going to load this up. And you got Marathon, you got Ultra, you got different modes here. Does it have a... Okay, I want to make sure I didn't miss some. Marathon's the one everybody knows and loves. It's where you level up. So you got options here. And this is where the cool part is. You got a modern mode, a retro mode. The retro mode turns off all those newer rules, like the hold, the T-spin, the infinite spin, and being able to hold a piece. And you can even turn off the ghost piece if you want. There's different music tracks. This is kind of similar. It's almost like a redux of the original Game Boy Tetris music. Nice touch. Now you also have this. Pretty cool. This music sounds very Euro Amiga, if that makes any sense. To you old hats out there. So we got, you can do a cue, because one of the modes will show you the upcoming pieces, so you can adjust that. Fall speed is modern and retro. Modern is where you push down, and it just, you can I guess drop your piece faster. So here, I'll play a quick round just to show how cool this is. See up here, it's showing you your next piece is coming. You can adjust all that. So you push up, you get the instant drop. If you hit select down here, it'll hold your piece. One thing that's driving me crazy is when I was wanting to hold the piece, I was looking for a shoulder button. So Tetris. All right. So that's the Tetris from ModRetro that comes with the device. And as of right now, like I said, that's the only way you can get that. Unless you're lucky and you find somebody who wants to part with it on eBay or Facebook Marketplace. But from what I understand, they're releasing it as a single SKU. So moving on, we're going to now that we've looked at the device and checked it all over and everything, we're going to move on to something that I feel is a little more important. Other than that is the compatibility of this device. So for that, I have my original EverDrive Game Boy cartridge. I have this Chinese bootleg multi-cart, which is old as dirt. And I have, this one's interesting, because I don't see how many people out there from the dark ages, such as myself, will remember the good old Bung Dr. Game Boy card here. I have a couple of them. We're going to try this one out, because I remember last I checked they had games on it. I could be wrong though, so I think I will check that out first. Some other things we're going to be doing. And I also have this interesting guy here. So in Japan, Nintendo, this is an official Nintendo product. They released these rewritable cartridges for Game Boy and also for the SNES in the early to mid 90s. And much like the Famicom disk system, you'd be able to take these to kiosks, plug them in, and you could purchase a game and it would flash it to this cartridge. So instead of buying a game, a regular game as its own cartridge, you could technically line up multiple games on one of these cartridges depending on the size of the game. This one I found at a it was a game convention, and and it was in a box of Japanese Game Boy games, like one of those brown boxes full of games. I love looking through them. Most of the games in the box are crap. A lot of common games like baseball and Tamagotchi and nothing amazing. But this white cart sticks right out. And I knew right away what it was. It was only $10, which is great. I always wanted one just because it's a curiosity. I mean, it really is. And the fun thing is you never know what game you're going to get on these. And I lucked out. It came with a Wario game, which is awesome. It could have been horrible. It could have been a Mahjong game. And I believe over there for a while, the only way to play Balloon Kid, a game released here, and I believe in Europe, but never released as a cartridge in Japan, was the only way to do it was to flash it. And it was a special colorized edition of it. How about if we start with that? Let's load this up, and we're going to see if compatibility works with these. And there it is. Works right away. So, obviously, I don't know Japanese, and I don't know how many people out there know Japanese that are fine. These are the banks down here for the games, but this right here is Wario, and if I select it, Super Mario Land 3. So one thing I think is cool is I think it filled in a Game Boy palette, because the cartridge sees it as a Game Boy game, color game. So I think we're actually getting the built-in one color. Somebody went crazy, man. They got 39 over there. Plays fine. You can hear the D-pad. Very clicky, pretty responsive. Although from what I understand, there is a problem with it. People are complaining because if you can hit dead center on it, see, it's causing movement. See that movement? That's not good. That's not something that's supposed to be happening. And there is a firmware update that they're trying to say is addressing this, but to me, that's a hardware thing. And I'm not going to get too much into it right now, because otherwise the D-pad works pretty fine. And I don't think a lot of people are going to notice it, but it is something that is worth knowing in the scheme of things. The buttons feel good. Yep, no problems there. So that works fine. All right. And let's see here. Let's give our Chinese bootleg a go here, okay? Now this is weird because I am going to tell you, I've already checked this out, but I want everybody to see what's going to happen here. It looks like it's going to be fine, but it ends up not being fine. Actually, now it's not even turning on at all. Let's see. I'm scared for a second there. All right, so this is weird because if anything, it did light up. Let me show you. I'm gonna put it in my Game Boy Color, modded Game Boy Color here. Now it's not even working. I know, I'm not supposed to do that, but for the sake of time and speed here, let's see if that worked. That's weird. Okay, it was working earlier. It's just it's a grody unofficial cartridge. Okay, so I'm not worried about it too much. But anyway, what happened earlier was when I tried to boot it on here, I got the main menu for like a split second, and then everything went dark. It was really bizarre. So I don't know if it's because it lost track of reading the cartridge, because as you can see, my Game Boy, my actual Game Boy, couldn't read it all of a sudden. I'm just going to go in and clean it again. I know the pins are a little gross. This one first, I'm going to try it on here. I can't remember if I actually have games on it or not. I think something's screwed up with it. Yeah. So that's not a good test example either. All right. Now the key thing here is this EverDrive. I've seen people, depending on the version of their EverDrive, if they work or not. So this is an original EverDrive GB. I've had this thing for probably about, I want to say 6 years or so. And it's not even an X series. This is before the X series. So it's not an X3. I mean, I guess it technically is an X3. I don't know, because it's got the same features of an X3, which is absolutely nothing. It's got no save states or anything like that. So, but before I understand the X7s, which are the the big and high end expensive versions with all the features like real time clock and save states, they're having some issues with this in different ways. Like the save states aren't working and oddities like that. Um, I'm happy to report this is working just fine. So one real quick feature here we're going to talk about. This is loading these default palettes. This is the same kind of palette you would get if you plugged it into a regular Game Boy Color. But as you know or may not know, the Game Boy Color has palettes built into it that when you boot a game, depending on which direction or button you're holding or combination thereof, you'll get a different palette. This is effectively the default one. Music on this game is fantastic, by the way. So that's working pretty well. I'm going to do something now, though. I'm going to show you this trick, okay? This is one of the palette changes we're going to do. I'm going to go back to that Castlevania. And we're going to, as it's loading up, we're going to hold down a combination of buttons. I'm going to hold up and B at the same time. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that should give me the brown color, which I actually think is kind of cool. I kind of like that brown shade palette. So we're going to load the game, start, and now we're going to hold the buttons. Yeah, so this is the brown palette. And on their website, they do have a list of all the different colors you can choose from. But I like the neutrality of this palette. It's not garish and crazy looking. So let's do this. At any time, you can go into the menu, and I'm going to lower this even more. See if that helps with the... That's a little too dark, I think. As I said, let's see if you can see those pixels. And those pixels, as I said, that is not a filter. This screen was manufactured from the ground up to create faithfully the Game Boy Color dot matrix display. So this is all hardware based. All right, so this particular EverDrive works fine. All right, so now with this bung cartridge, I'm going to swap it out. I have another one. I'm going to give that a shot. So let's go and flip it around and see how that works out. So I also have this 64 meg version. I don't remember. One of them had games, one didn't. I don't remember. But I also remember one of them got corrupted. Let's see if we can try this one out, see what happens. Yeah, we're getting a blank screen on that one. We're getting a green light too. All right, I'm going to try plugging it in here. remember at one point I did have, I keep looking for the power button up here. Yeah, I think something happened where I tried flashing this at one point. It got corrupted because normally there was a menu that would pop up with a lot of games on it. Yeah, now it's not even seen it at all. So that's kind of a bummer. In any case, it would have been nice to have tried that out. It looks like it saw it, but yeah. All right. What else can we do? I have an actual original cart. This is Burger Time Deluxe, one of my favorites from Japan. As you can see, once again, you're getting that basic default color mode. It's kind of like a green and pink thing going on. But if we turn this off, and the key thing is to hold in a direction and a button. So I don't have the chart in front of me, but let's try holding it. Let's try holding down and B and switching it on and see what happens. Ooh, look at that. Ooh, I don't like that. There is supposed to be a Game Boy DMG mode. Let's try holding down, see what happens. That's like a pink and a blue thing going on there. Runs great though. No issues here. D-pad feels pretty good. Actually feels really good. It's clicky, but at the same time, I'm just moving my finger along, sliding it up and down, left and right. I'm not even lifting my finger, which kind of is the way it should be, really. All right, so moving on, the games they seem to be working pretty well. Let's try a. This is a black, as I said, hybrid cartridge. It works in Game Boy and Game Boy Color. Let's try that out. Now, as you can see, the Game Boy Color, since it's on the Game Boy Color, this is a Nintendo palette. They built these into these games. So you're going to get a little bit of color to them, which is great. See that? Looks awesome. But if you played this on an original Game Boy, obviously it'd be black and white. But they're both compatible. I mean, with this cartridge, both systems. So that looks great. And the pixels look awesome. Alright. So now that we're done messing around with the games, I have a few accessories I thought we would try as well. The key thing is, to me, the big one I want to try. I have a Game Boy camera here. We're going to plug that in. Because it will help if I put it in the right way. And we can just barely hit this power button up here. So I have some stuff in my album. Okay. Creepy thing is, the Game Boy camera I got this from, the person I got it from left all their pictures on it. So there's a lot of pictures of people I don't even know who they are. And there's a couple test ones of myself here as well. And I think a couple of my buddy Shane here of Monroe World. There he is. There's the wife. There's me again. Pretty cool. So what we're going to do is, let's see how the Game Boy printer works with this. Got the craziest menus. All right, so one thing I want to point out is the serial cable port for the port play here is using the same one as the Game Boy Advance. This is the Game Boy Color one. You can see the difference between the two. It's kind of odd that they used the Game Boy Advance one and not a Game Boy Color one. I'm not quite sure what that's about. But in any case, I've got one of these Mad Catz adapters that will plug into, should work on both. The printer and the chromatic here. So we're going to plug this into the printer over here. And we're going to plug the other one into the chromatic. Okay. And we're going to see how this works out. We're going to power on. Okay. Got paper in there. And let's see if we can bring something up here. Trying to remember how to print. I think I can just select the picture and print it. Let's print Shane. There you go. Paint. I honestly forgot how to play with this thing. I'm wondering if I have to reboot it. Let me reboot it, because I swore there was an option to print from it. Let's see. I haven't done this in a while. There it is, print. Okay. There we go. Print error. That's interesting. Oh, there it goes. It says transferring. Never seen the print error before. And we got life over here. Let's see what happens. There we go. There's Shane. Works great. Fortunately, this isn't sticky side, so I can't stick them anywhere. But yeah, there you go. Hey, that's pretty cool, you know? Works fine. So, yeah, anyway, I think that's about it for now. Now, closing thoughts. This device is cool. All right, it's pretty nifty. I wasn't really sold on it initially, only because of my situation. I've got so many of these devices and all laying around, but at the same time, yeah, this is probably a pretty cool deal for somebody who's just looking to get back and play some Game Boy games again. Comes with a really cool version of Tetris. $199. It seems like a lot of money though to me. And there's other options, obviously. If you're looking for pure emulation, you've got the Miu Mini, which I think is fantastic as well. And it's also only about 65 bucks on like Amazon, or even cheaper from AliExpress. The other big option is the Analog Pocket. Both of these are FPGA devices, which means they're running essentially emulate hardware to their best effect, just specifically to that device. I think the cool thing about this device in particular compared to the Analog Pocket, I do not own an Analog Pocket. It just doesn't really interest me. But I think the thing that does interest me about this, and the big difference between the two, is a screen, which tries its hardest to be a Game Boy screen as we all knew it back in the day. And I think it pulls it off really well. It's also a very high quality display. So even if you're banging this whole device up, this screen is going to be in good shape with that sapphire glass and just the authenticity of that dark matrix not even a filter, just the grid lines are excellent on it. If I boot up real quick, and by the way, this will work in your OG hardware. If I bring up this real quick, I do have grid lines on this as well, and you can see that they look really good. The pixel effect, that looks fantastic. But it's on software. It's not hardware related. It's a filter. So, you know, there's something about it. It's kind of hard for me to say, really. But the bottom line is, if you're just looking to play some Game Boy games, I think this is hands-on, probably the easiest and most efficient and well-built way you're gonna want to play and really keep that whole nostalgic vibe. Another thing too, though, is the colors. This is an IPS display. This is LCD, and the colors that they did with this one are matching a lot better. The tone and the tint quality, everything about it is matching the Game Boy Color's coloring schemes more efficiently. But yeah, obviously the Analog Pocket, you can play SNES, you can play NES, you can play GBA, you can side load stuff left and right. So it's a little more after shipping and all. You're gonna be paying a little more, whereas you can just go to GameStop and get this for $199.99 plus tax. It's free shipping, so it is a little cheaper. But the bottom line, at the end of the day, all you're doing is playing Game Boy and Game Boy Color games on this device. There's no GBA. No Neo Geo Pocket, no Lynx, no SNES. You have to factor some of those things in there. But if you're a crazy whack job like myself who just loves Game Boy stuff, to me this was more intriguing, and is because it's only trying to do one thing. It's just trying to be an original Game Boy. And I know the developer of this, he set out to do that very thing, and I think he did a pretty decent job with it. There's a little bit of weirdness going on with that D-pad, because you shouldn't be able to push all directions at the same time on the Game Boy D-pad. But from what I understand, the firmware tried to fix that a little bit. Somebody lambasted me on Twitter about it after I pointed it out, and I'm like, whatever, dude. I mean, you're obviously not as into this as I am. And I just let it go. I'm like, whatever. So I had to try it myself at this point. And yeah, so besides, for me, just putting this in here, this is it. To me, this is probably going to be my daily driver now. Just an EverDrive and this Chromatic. And I believe the battery life is, I think, something like 10 hours, which is amazing. I don't even think I can get 10 hours out of this. And I know it is only running 2. But also another thing is, I don't have to worry. This is mostly original This is all hardware. This is all original hardware, and granted, it's in pristine condition because I really took well care of it. No dirt on it or anything. This is a third market party case, and it's not built as solid. It's plastic. The buttons are all third party. The screen's third party. The motherboard's the official thing. Bottom line is, I don't have to worry about a lot of these older parts wearing down, or having to bring out some of my old refurbished and remanufactured devices to worry about if they're going to break. I'll be able to hold them for the foreseeable future, and as the relics they are. So I'm glad to see that some of these accessories are working. That's pretty cool. The EverDrive is working. That's pretty cool. I have a feeling these probably would have worked as well if their memory wasn't screwed up on them. And I do remember that was an issue, so I probably shouldn't have even factored that into this test. So anyway, yeah, I think that's about it for now. They're still available on GameStop's website if you're interested. And as I said, if you spend over, what is it, 70? It's not reading Mario Land there. What's going on? There you go. If you spend like over $75, you're getting free shipping. So that's pretty cool. So you'll essentially just be paying $199 plus tax for the device. And they're a little clicky, but yeah, controls are feeling really well. playing Mario here. And honestly, I think that's where they're trying to aim for here. Their bottom their bottom line is they were trying to get a Game Boy into people's hands that maybe wish to play them again, but in the best playable light. I mean, when we were kids, we always wanted a backlit screen on these devices, and now you can get one, and it's already done. It's not modded old hardware. You don't have to worry about breaking down probably as soon as another device would from yesteryear. So anyway, that's about it for now. I believe I covered what I wanted to get out of my system. But that was the ModRetro Chromatic. And I hope you enjoyed this video. Leave a question or comment below if you have any. Like and subscribe. And I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching. Take it easy.